Some of the more fascinating pieces of evidence in South America have come out recently about these channels and pathways that they've found in the Amazon that could not have been created any other way but by humans.
Absolutely.
Creating irrigation, humans creating, like, it appears like grids, like a city grid.
For decades, the Amazon was believed to hide nothing beneath its surface except soil and roots. That belief ended the moment archaeologists opened a sealed chamber buried deep inside the jungle. This was not an exposed ruin or a collapsed cave.
This cave is one of the most important archaeological sites in this area.
It was a space that had been closed on purpose. What waited inside did not match the timeline of human history, the knowledge of the region, or the limits we thought ancient societies had. The Amazon was never empty. For much of modern history, the Amazon was treated as a place where complex civilization could not exist. Scholars described it as an environment too unstable to support large populations. The soil was considered poor. Seasonal flooding was seen as destructive. Dense vegetation was believed to make permanent settlement impossible. According to this view, the Amazon could only sustain small groups who survived by hunting, gathering, and constant movement. These groups were commonly described as hunter-gatherers. This assumption shaped decades of research. Early archaeologists entered the region already convinced of what they would find. They searched for visible markers of civilization, such as stone buildings, carved monuments, or exposed foundations. Instead, they encountered thick forest, fragile ground, and near-zero visibility. Organic materials decayed quickly. Wood structures vanished. Stone construction was rare. Excavation was slow and often dangerous. When no obvious cities appeared, researchers concluded their expectations had been correct. Entire regions were dismissed with minimal investigation. That conclusion started to fall apart when local reports told a different story. Indigenous communities and farmers noticed raised earthworks in places that flooded each year. These earthworks ran in straight lines instead of following the land. Some of them stretched for long distances. Nature does not make repeated straight lines like this. The shapes suggested they were built by people. As modern farming and construction pushed deeper into the forest, large sections of land were cleared. When the vegetation was removed, features that had been hidden for centuries became visible. Straight channels appeared in wetlands where water normally spread without direction. These channels connected higher ground to lower areas and followed consistent paths. They were spaced evenly, not randomly. According to researchers, these raised fields were built to control flooding and protect crops. Together, these features showed that the land had been planned and reshaped rather than used temporarily. The breakthrough came with aerial and satellite imagery. From above, the forest revealed straight roads, intersecting angles, and organized clearings. Large open spaces sat at the center of these layouts, resembling plazas or gathering areas. Some researchers began estimating populations in the tens of thousands, spread across interconnected settlements. The reason this evidence remained hidden for so long is simple. The Amazon heals rapidly. Cleared land disappears beneath vegetation within years. Earthworks soften and blend back into the terrain. Traditional archaeology depends on what can be seen on the surface, and in this environment, surface clues do not last. Once researchers accepted that large populations could have existed here, they faced a harder reality. If the forest erased its past so completely, then the answers would not be found by walking the ground. They would have to be pulled from beneath it. The city with a secret center. To move forward, researchers had to stop looking at the surface altogether. They turned to tools designed to read what lay hidden below the soil. Ground-penetrating radar became one of the most important. According to field reports, the method revealed changes in density beneath the forest floor that could not be explained by natural processes alone. When the first scans were completed, the result was immediate and unsettling. The ground beneath the jungle was not random. Something had been built beneath it. Clear lines appeared beneath layers of soil and vegetation. Long corridors ran in controlled directions. Open rectangular spaces emerged at regular intervals. Platforms rose above surrounding terrain in repeated patterns. These were not isolated structures. They formed a system. Roads linked plazas. Plazas connected to raised areas. According to researchers involved in the surveys, the layout showed planning at a scale that ruled out small scattered settlements. As more data was processed, the size of the site became harder to ignore. The mapped area stretched across many square miles. When researchers compared the amount of built space with known population models, the numbers became uncomfortable. According to some estimates, the land modification alone suggested tens of thousands of people living within a connected network. This was not a temporary camp, it was a city. Surrounding the central area, the scans revealed zones that did not contain homes or platforms. Instead, these areas showed repeated low ridges and channels arranged in broad bands. According to agricultural specialists, these patterns matched intensive food production. The city core was ringed by managed land designed to grow crops and control water. This arrangement suggested planning beyond daily survival. Food was being produced at scale and directed toward a population center. What stood out most was the absence of chaos. There was no random spread of structures. Buildings did not appear wherever space allowed. Everything followed order. Paths were aligned, spaces were proportioned. According to some analysts, this kind of layout requires leadership, coordination, and long-term planning. Someone was making decisions. Someone was directing labor. Then one feature refused to fit neatly into the rest. At the exact center of the mapped layout, the radar data showed a smooth oval shape. It was not rectangular like the plazas. It did not follow the angles of the roads. It stood apart, perfectly symmetrical, perfectly placed. According to initial interpretations, it was not a sinkhole or natural cavity. The signal response suggested solid material shaped deliberately. The location of this structure raised immediate concern. Cities usually place their most important buildings at the center. According to urban planning models, central placement is reserved for power, ritual, or protection. This oval feature sat where authority would be expected. It was not on the edge. It was not hidden by distance. It was hidden by design. Further scans deepened the mystery. Geological readings showed differences in density around the oval structure. The surrounding rock appeared altered. According to preliminary analysis, the material showed signs of heat exposure beyond what natural processes in the area could easily explain. Some researchers reported that the surface appeared fused rather than fractured. This raised the possibility that the structure had been sealed intentionally. Speculation began quietly. According to some members of the research team, the oval shape resembled an entrance rather than a chamber. Others believed it marked a boundary. What unsettled the team most was the pattern leading to it. Roads did not pass through the structure. They stopped short of it. Plazas faced toward it. The city seemed to point inward. This suggested purpose. Whatever lay inside the oval feature was not meant for daily use. It was set apart from ordinary life. By this stage, the discovery had moved beyond mapping. It was no longer about proving a city existed. It was about understanding why something at its center had been hidden so carefully. Before anyone attempted to breach that sealed structure, the landscape offered something else first. A message carved into stone that explained why the door existed at all. The warning written on the cliff. The team expected the ridge to give them one clear target, the sealed oval they had mapped. But when they reached the base of the cliff, the first discovery was not the door, it was the rock face itself. According to field notes, the stone looked wrong up close. Patches of it carried a deep red color that did not match the surrounding surface. When the team cleared away moss and grime, the truth hit hard. The cliff was painted, not with a few marks or simple handprints, but with a massive mural stretching across a wide section of the ridge. At first glance, it looked like a crowded scene of animals and people. Then the details started to sink in. The creatures were not the ones seen in the modern Amazon. According to reports from researchers who have studied similar rock art, some figures resembled Ice Age animals that have been extinct for thousands of years. Large elephant-like animals with curved tusks appeared in multiple panels. Huge ground sloths were shown with thick bodies and heavy claws. These were not vague shapes, they were drawn with careful features, the kind that suggests direct observation. If the artists had never seen these animals alive, it would be almost impossible to depict them with this level of accuracy. This is where the timeline began to break in a more serious way. According to preliminary dating discussions, if the animals were truly Ice Age species, then the artwork could be more than 12,000 years old. That is far older than most people associate with complex planning in the Amazon. The shock did not come from one drawing alone. It came from how consistent the animals were across the mural, repeated again and again as if the artists were recording a world they knew well. Then came another clue that pointed to intelligence and organization. Pigment studies, according to some reports, suggested that the red material used in the paint did not match nearby soil sources. Some researchers believe it may have come from deposits located far away, possibly hundreds of miles from the ridge. If that is true, it means people were not just surviving in place. They were traveling, trading, and deliberately selecting materials. That kind of effort does not happen without planning and shared purpose. The most disturbing part of the mural was the motion. The figures were not calm. Many were shown running. Animals and humans were angled in the same direction, as if fleeing from something off-scene. In the middle of the chaos, a central symbol appeared above the movement. It looked like a circle with sharp lines radiating outward. Some interpretations suggest it represents an event in the sky, something dangerous and sudden. Whether that reading is correct or not, the placement was deliberate. The symbol sat in a position that drew the eye, and the direction of the fleeing figures led toward the sealed ridge. The mural was not decoration. It was instruction, and it made one thing clear. Whatever lay behind the sealed rock was meant to survive something catastrophic. Breaking the seal. The rock was smoother than the surrounding stone and carried a pale sheen that did not appear naturally in this formation. According to geological assessments from the site, the material showed signs of alteration. It did not fracture like normal limestone. It behaved as if it had been changed by heat. Closer inspection raised more concerns. Portions of the surface appeared glazed as though minerals had flowed and then hardened in place. Some researchers reported that the stone resembled material exposed to temperatures far higher than what slow natural processes usually produce in this environment. There were no signs of collapse or pressure cracking. The surface looked sealed, not broken. As equipment was brought closer, another issue emerged. Compasses failed to settle. Electronic sensors produced inconsistent readings. According to field notes, instruments that worked normally elsewhere near the site behaved unpredictably near the structure. Limestone is not known for magnetic properties, yet something in the ridge appeared to interfere with basic navigation tools. Some researchers speculated that materials within the rock had been altered or reinforced in a way that affected local magnetism. The decision to drill was not made quickly. This was not a standard cave opening. It was a sealed surface with unknown stability. According to reports, the team selected diamond-tipped tools designed for extreme hardness. Even then, progress was slow. The drill did not move through the rock as expected. Bits dulled faster than anticipated. Vibration readings suggested layered resistance rather than uniform stone. This was not a simple wall. After prolonged effort, the drill finally broke through. The moment it happened, the reaction was immediate. A rush of air escaped from the opening with enough force to be felt. This alone caused alarm. Sealed spaces sometimes release air, but this felt different. According to those present, the air did not carry the smell of decay or stagnant water. Instead, it had a sharp metallic scent, similar to wet iron or ozone. That detail mattered. It suggested the interior had been sealed in a stable state. The space had not collapsed. It had not flooded. It had been preserved. The opening was widened slowly, with constant monitoring for structural failure. As light entered the gap, dust lifted but did not billow as it would in a natural cave. The air inside was still. The temperature beyond the seal was more consistent than expected for a mountain cavity. There were no signs of animal activity. No insects fled the light. No bats stirred. The silence felt deliberate. Crossing into the darkness did not feel like entering a cave. It felt like stepping into a space that had been prepared and then abandoned on purpose. An engineered space beneath the mountain. The first thing that broke expectation was the floor. Beneath solid rock and sealed stone, the ground was not uneven or broken. It was flat, smooth, carefully leveled. According to reports from the excavation team, this was not the floor of a natural cave. There were no loose stones, no erosion channels, no irregular slopes. The surface had been prepared intentionally, as if people expected others to walk there long after it was completed. As the team moved deeper, the material beneath their boots raised even more questions. Soil samples taken from the floor showed high levels of charcoal, organic matter, and fine texture. Some researchers identified it as terra preta, a man-made soil long associated with ancient Amazonian land management. This soil does not form naturally in sealed underground spaces. According to specialists, Terra preta is created through controlled processes involving fire, plant material, and long-term planning. Finding it here suggested that the builders were not improvising. They were applying knowledge developed over generations. In Amazonian history, Terra preta is linked to sustainable agriculture and population stability. It allows crops to grow in areas where natural soil would fail. Its presence inside a sealed chamber raised difficult questions. Why would fertile soil be placed beneath a mountain? According to some interpretations, this choice implied future use rather than decoration. The soil was not scattered. It was laid evenly, reinforcing the idea of deliberate design. Structural features soon demanded attention. Tall pillars rose along the walls, placed at regular intervals. These were not carved from the surrounding stone. According to geological analysis, they were made of basalt, a dense volcanic rock not found in this immediate area. Transporting basalt would have required planning, labor, and coordination. The pillars were positioned to bear weight, not to impress. Their spacing suggested an understanding of load distribution and structural support. The ceiling above showed no signs of natural collapse. There were no jagged breaks or fallen debris. Instead, the space appeared reinforced. According to engineers consulted after the scans, the chamber was built to resist immense pressure from above. This was not a shelter scraped out of convenience. It was designed to endure. What made the realization sink in was what was missing. There were no stalactites or stalagmites. No watermarks traced the walls. No signs of slow natural growth appeared anywhere in the space. Everything looked controlled, clean, static. According to some reports, this indicated the chamber had been isolated from natural cave systems since its completion. The silence inside was absolute. No insects moved, no animals nested. Air circulation was minimal. According to field observations, even sealed caves usually support some form of life. This space did not. It felt separated from the living world above. That isolation was not accidental. At this point, doubt gave way to certainty. This was not a cave that people had found and reused. It was a space they had built from the beginning with a clear purpose. Every feature pointed to intention: the floor, the soil, the supports, the isolation. The mountain had been shaped to protect what lay within. As the chamber opened into a wider hall, the builders revealed what the space was truly designed to protect: the Ark inside the Amazon. The wider hall changed everything. Along the walls, massive curved bones rose from the floor in repeating arches. They were not scattered or piled. They were placed with care. Each rib stood upright, anchored firmly, forming a corridor that felt deliberate and controlled. According to reports from the team, some of the ribs measured several feet in length. These were not human remains. They belonged to animals far larger than anything living in the Amazon today. Closer examination identified the bones as coming from extinct megafauna. Some appeared consistent with Ice Age mammals known only from fossils. These animals vanished thousands of years ago. Their remains are usually found broken, buried, or scattered by time. Here they were intact and arranged. According to specialists, moving bones of this size would have required coordinated labor, planning, and strength. This was not the work of a few individuals. It suggested an organized group acting with purpose. The structure they created was unsettling. The ribs formed a kind of internal frame, almost like the inside of a body turned outward. Walking through it caused visible discomfort among the team. According to field notes, the space felt ceremonial but not religious. It felt functional. The bones were being used as material, not as offerings. At the center of the hall sat a circular depression filled with a dark liquid. It did not reflect light like water, it absorbed it. The surface was thick and still. According to initial tests, the liquid was not stagnant water or oil. Chemical analysis suggested it contained high levels of charcoal and mineral content. Some researchers reported that the composition appeared hostile to bacteria and decay. When samples were taken, the reaction was immediate. Floating within the liquid were seeds, not fossilized remains, not mineral impressions. Actual preserved seeds. According to botanists consulted on the site, several did not match any living plant species in the modern Amazon. Some resembled extinct varieties known only from ancient records and pollen samples. The realization caused visible shock. These were not symbolic objects. They were biological material kept alive in suspension. As the chamber was examined further, sealed containers were found along the walls. According to reports, these jars were carefully closed and protected from moisture. Inside were additional seeds and plant matter. Some appeared dried and preserved, others were sealed in ways that suggested long-term storage. The consistency of placement indicated planning rather than ritual. This was inventory. At this point, the purpose of the chamber became impossible to ignore. This was not a burial site. There were no human remains, no signs of funerary practice. Nothing honored the dead. Everything focused on preservation. According to some interpretations, the builders were not trying to remember the past. They were trying to carry it forward. The chamber was an ark, a biological vault built to protect life itself. The bones provided structure. The liquid preserved genetic material. The jars stored seeds meant to regrow a lost world. This was preparation for absence. According to some researchers, the builders believed the surface world would not survive what was coming. The weight of that realization settled heavily. Fear replaced excitement. According to field notes, the room felt like a final decision made long ago, a place built with the knowledge that those who constructed it might never return. The vault explained why the chamber existed, but it raised a final and more disturbing question. What happened to the people who built it? The people who did not stay. Once the purpose of the vault became clear, attention turned to what was missing. There were no human remains anywhere inside the chamber. No skeletons, no burial spaces, no signs that people had died where they worked. According to field reports, the absence was total. For a structure designed with such care, this raised immediate concern. If the chamber was meant to preserve life, then where were the builders themselves? The tools made the question harder to ignore. Stone implements and working tools were found arranged neatly along the edges of the space. They were not scattered. They were not dropped in haste. According to researchers, the placement looked intentional, as if the work had been completed and the tools set aside. There were no signs of struggle, no broken objects, no damage that suggested panic or collapse inside the chamber. Outside the vault, however, the story changed. Geological samples taken from the surrounding ridge showed signs of extreme heat exposure. According to preliminary analysis, parts of the stone had been altered in ways consistent with sudden high-temperature events. Some researchers reported the presence of microscopic materials formed only under intense heat. These markers are often associated with large-scale natural disasters rather than slow geological change. This raised the possibility that the chamber was sealed during a catastrophic event. According to some interpretations, the heat that altered the rock may have fused the entrance shut, either intentionally or as a result of the disaster itself. If this occurred, the builders may have sealed the vault knowing they would not survive what followed. Unverified reports suggest the timing of the seal matches evidence of widespread environmental disruption in the region. What stands out most is the choice reflected in the design. Every effort went into preserving plants, seeds, and biological material. No effort went into preserving human bodies. According to some researchers, this suggests a deliberate decision. The builders prioritized the continuation of life over their own survival. They prepared for a future they believed they would not see. This forces a difficult reassessment of human history. The people who built this were not simple or short-sighted. They understood risk. They understood loss. They acted with long-term thinking rarely associated with early societies. According to some scholars, this discovery challenges the idea that ancient people lived only for the present. The mystery remains unresolved. Whether the builders perished, left the region, or were overtaken by events outside their control is unknown. What is clear is that they made a choice. They built something meant to speak across time. And now that it has been found, it forces us to ask how many other chapters of human history remain buried, waiting to be seen. If you enjoyed watching this video, kindly like and subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.